Today we are going to be making a cuffed version of the pillowcase pattern, which is one of the freebies for the 2020 Holiday Freebies with Patterns for Pirates. It's really simple, takes very little, amounts of fabric or pieces, and I think it's really beginner friendly, but it's also great for just gifts in general. So you're gonna need 2 pieces of fabric here. This one is gonna be the cuff, and it's 9 inches long by 41 inches wide. And then here's your main fabric, and it's 27 inches long and 41 inches wide also. This is the queen size, which is typically what people have for pillowcases. Standard size is also a typical one. I mean, I just feel like queen tends to be the size that most people have on their beds. So what we're gonna do is lay the main fabric out right sides up, and then we're gonna put the cuff piece down right sides down right on top of it, and we're gonna line up the short edge of the main piece, and it's really actually the long edge. I guess I'm the long edge of both pieces, excuse me. And we're gonna be sewing along this top line at 1/2 inch seam allowance. You can see our pieces are nice and neatly sewn together. Now we're gonna be running over to the iron because we're going to be pressing this seam allowance up. Well, we're doing 2 types of pressing. We're gonna be pressing our seam allowance up towards the top. So you press it away from the main piece, we're going up. And then we're also going to be pressing this top raw edge of the cuff down 1/2 inch. And we're gonna be doing that for a memory press right now, because we're gonna be using that when we enclose all the seams. It's gonna look nice and neat. So do this seam allowance up, and we're gonna be doing this seam allowance down. All right, we've got it all pressed up and down, and we're ready to get to the next step, which is really, the assembly of this is super easy. So we're gonna be doing French seams, which means we're gonna be enclosing all the seams so you can't see them. You have the option, if you wanted to, fold it right sides together and then stitch at 1/2 inch seam allowance and then finish the edges. But we're gonna do it a different way this time, where we're going to fold wrong sides together first. So we're gonna be matching it up, giving ourselves that pillowcase shape, and make sure your seams match here and everywhere. And we are going to be sewing along this entire long edge and this entire short edge. So you can put your clips or pins on if you want to. Completely optional. Some people don't like to with something as simple as a rectangle, but if it helps you, absolutely go for it. And like I said, we are going to go all the way along this edge at 1/4 inch and all the way along this edge at 1/4 inch. We are all sewn up, and what you're gonna wanna do in order for us to get that nice clean French seam is trim this 1/4 inch edge down to as close to 1/8 inch as you can possibly get. I like to use my rotary blade and cut very carefully, but you can also just take a pair of sharp scissors. We're gonna be turning this kind of inside out and hiding all these seams. So it's best to give yourself the least amount of fabric chance of like sticking out when we go to enclose everything. It just gives a much neater edge on the inside. You don't have any chance of fraying. Just gives it a clean look all the way around. So we are just cutting it down to about 1/8 of an inch very carefully. Again, you can use scissors, but I'm a wild woman, so I like to use my rotary tool. Okay, so we did that. Now we are going to be turning it right sides together. So we're gonna be completely inside out. And we wanna make sure we press these corners out neatly as possible. You can grab a turning tool if you have one, or a chopstick, and stick those corners out even better. And now you're gonna wanna press and push these edges out as much as you can. And we're going to be going back through and sewing at 1/4 of an inch again. So 1/4 of an inch all the way down here, 1/4 of an inch all the way down that edge. Now that we've sewn it all, you can see here we are. On the inside, we've got a very clean edge. And when we turn it right sides out, we've also got a really clean edge. So every little bit of the raw edge for these two sides that we just sewed are completely enclosed. And once you've done that, if that was your first time, you've officially done a French seam, which is pretty exciting, right? So the next thing we're gonna do is actually finish our cuff. So we've got that memory press that we already did, which helps a lot in this next step. So we'll go ahead and turn this right back out, or back inside out. And we are going to be folding this cuff down in half. So we enclose everything and we cover up this seam allowance. So we end up folding it down about, it's halfway, half of the cuff length. And you want to meet that edge right at our stitch line, at our seam line, all the way around the entire thing. And this is when I grab pins rather than clips, because it's a lot easier for me to pin. But we're going to just line it up. So once again, this is a super clean way to be able to conceal all of your seams. You're not going to get any problems with anything fraying, especially when you're washing it. You can use it over and over again, and you just don't have to mess with any nastiness that comes with, you know, sometimes sewing with woven fabrics. So here we go. We keep folding. Everything matches up neatly. We're just simply pinning everything in place so we can go back to our sewing machine and stitch it all closed. And then I'm going to be edge stitching this entire cuff at as close to the edge as I can get. So what did they say? A scant 1/8 inch. So we're gonna be stitching all the way around this puppy. And we'll be finishing our, well, we'll be completing our pillowcase in general, but we'll be finishing that cuff. The last thing we need to do is just press, press, press. Make sure you turn those corners out real nice. I missed it on this one, it looks like a little bit. Shame on me. And then your pillowcase is ready to rock. I think it's so sweet. It's really simple, and you can make a million of these. Be great gifts. They're great gifts to yourself. And again, I love that everything is so clean. So there are no extra edges floating anywhere. Everything is tucked in, and it just looks really professionally finished, and everything looks really great. So I hope you enjoy this. I hope you have wonderful holiday season, and I'm thrilled to see what you make with these. Thanks.